Yeah, so today's a great day because we closed Lincoln yesterday,
Awesome.
and so today is payday. Isn't that
Okay.
pretty cool?
Yes,
Isn't that
yes,
awesome? You happy about
yes,
getting paid?
yes.
Yeah, right now we're celebrating the paycheck because the money getting made is what it's for. And what I love that you got to see, and again, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but the money's great, but you get to see all the details that go all the way to profit. The one
So
thing I
true.
tell people is acquisition is hard, but it's just the beginning. There's a lot of details to go all the way to profit. So
Hmm.
I'm hoping you see the value in getting help all the way to the profit check instead of just help to the acquisition. Is there a
Sure.
difference? Would you tell somebody else there's a difference between buying and going all the way to the sale?
Yeah. I go with the basic thing, like acquisition is like a birth of a child, and then you bring it up to, when they go to college and get graduated from college is where the deal is. And all the grind that goes in is what the education is. So I appreciate that absolutely.
Yeah, I mean the funding, and then a contractor might do this, and an agent might say that, and interest rates might go from 3 to 8. And I mean,
Yeah.
just what do you do along the way to make the proper adjustments to get done right? But all that on this one turned into a check. In fact, we
Mm-hmm.
have we have a check that we want to display here. If Maggie's going to do that, who's got the
Shotgun has it. Shotgun has it.
da 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 da?
Hey, the drum
Look
rolls,
at
huh?
the drum roll with
Ooh.
the check. See the check? Now
Awesome.
that's not bad. So
Yes.
Yes.
we pulled 20 some percent on $100 some thousand house.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We and just to for the context of others that maybe watching this at some point, we don't even usually do $100,000 houses, right? We like kind of the 150 because it's just sometimes it's hard to make any money if
Agreed.
anything goes wrong, right? But when you get them real cheap, when you can get them real cheap, they don't make $100 some thousand houses anymore. They can't build them, they can't produce them, and so they can turn into an opportunity. And so this check is really like a 150, 175, 200 house check,
Mm-hmm.
and on a smaller house.
Sure.
Huge percent of profit in spite of some of the length, right? A little more interest, a little more labor, a very good check. So we're super happy. I hope you're happy. You happy?
Absolutely, yeah. The time was there, and that's where I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of a little bit,
Yep. Yep.
kind of
And,
slowed down a little bit because I wasn't
and
sure what to do. So.
yes, well, because it ended up being way more work. I think
Mm-hmm.
again, when we get into the training value, we'll talk about agents always say certain things, and then when you own it, they say more things. And then when
Mm-hmm.
you get right down to it, they say more things, right? Like, but what I
Agreed.
really meant was, I really meant countertops, and I really meant this trim over here, and I really meant the bathroom. And you're like, yeah, that whole conversation we had about the details, you're adding details. Well, what
Agreed.
I meant, that's what we make them sign off now, by the way. Sign
Mm-hmm.
off on specific scopes because I don't want you to misremember later. So in
Agreed.
this house, it became because every time they want more done, guess what? More time, all that. But amazing. So we're happy that you're happy to get in a place to do these. And by the way, just remind us what you were doing before we got a chance to work together and get some of these done. What were you doing in real estate, and what do you been doing? Like, just update us on kind of what you're up to.
So, when I started with you, I was, dribbling with real estate for a while. I'd done a deal back in 2011. So after that, I didn't do much, and my dad wasn't feeling well during those times. And then he passed away in 2023. So after that, we had this deal that come in. So meanwhile, it's there, and obviously, my money was stuck within this and my Chiple, the Florida one. So that's why I've been kind of
Yep.
slowed down. My goal was to do 5 deals this year, but it kind of slowed
Yep.
down. But this has
Yep.
given me a new momentum. So I'm sure in 2025 we will do 5, 6 more deals.
We're
So
gonna kill it. Oh yeah, we're gonna
yeah,
kill it. And some co-living. Remember the co-living? All that money per month is the good passive too. We want to get one of those. I mean, flipping's great.
yes,
It's great. It's validation.
mm,
But it's also taxes, right? So we
yes.
want to go get that co-living. Yeah. So I mean, you're in a similar spot where people. It's just hard to make the marketing and cold calling work. I mean, I don't. If I
Mhm.
remember right, you weren't making that work when we talked the first time about getting
Yes,
together.
yes, I did.
It was difficult. I don't think you've had success there. Have you had any success there since then? Marketing cold
No,
calling?
no, nothing. And before I joined you, I had done around 1,100 calls. I put one house under contract, and that also didn't work out because it had title issues. So I couldn't even close on that one.
So
So
you got close but not closed.
yes,
On what you said,
that's right.
1,100
Didn't make the
calls.
money. Yeah,
Well, remember, remember,
1,100
remember,
calls.
remember. People say it's 4,000 calls per deal. So you were
Mm-hmm.
only 25% of the way. You'd
Sure,
have
no
to do all
problem.
that again 3,000 more times on the dials.
Mhm.
That's not super fun. Is it easier to web browse and copy and
Mm.
paste to make a bid? Is that easier?
Yes, absolutely. And you see, in this point, it's about the control. So, for an example, the Dunkirk home, I think I had reviewed close to 12 or 13 homes, and then we got this one.
Yeah.
And during, I think between this one and Florida, I think I have, reviewed around 50 houses, and we have two, which one closed and one still to close. So, I
Yep.
think this has a better, and I can always ramp that thing up if I can teach somebody else the groundwork, which,
Yep.
with the virtual thing, which you can put
Yep.
it, that makes sense.
Yep. Well, and I'm glad you said that, because that's the ratio we try for is the
Mm-hmm.
1 in 25. And just like a team goes on the field, if we run some
Mm-hmm.
plays and don't get it, we have to adjust and get
Mm-hmm.
down in the ratio. But sometimes people are before the ratio. Some people were like 1 in 11. Maybe we're
Right.
overpaying, by the way, and should get back up to 1 in 25. But I think that's the reasonable range. It is real estate after all. It
Agree.
is bidding after all. It is time of year and interest rates. And I mean, within all those variables, I like 25, 50-ish and not hundreds or thousands. I mean,
Yes,
comparatively, does it even matter? When we're talking 100 yards versus 50 miles, does it really matter if it's 80 yards or 150 yards? I mean, who cares? It's not 50 miles, right?
that's right.
I mean, it's so
And
ridiculously different.
something it's within your control. See, the cold calling is not within your control, and it changes by the minute, and it's like they will say yes, moment you follow up, they disappeared, So here at least
Yeah.
to call auction.com or Zoom or whatever, so you can go from
Yep.
there.
Yep. And why, just remember why that is. Least amount of investors per potential deal, because most people run away from the sites.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would you admit you had to learn some nuances of the site, like not cash only, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have. We do see the inside before we buy, right?
Yes.
We don't have title issues. Even right on the side it says may have liens. Well, no, it doesn't. Just the ones we put on, right?
Yes.
Opening bid, it gets auctioned multiple times, not just once. Like there was a few things to learn that you wouldn't have known
Mm-hmm.
without those details taught to you, right?
Yes.
It makes all the difference.
Yes.
It makes all
And
the difference. So there's
in
a
the training, I learned this one, which I think I remembered the most was, to follow up on everything. I think this Dunkirk home, I had 13, I think 12 or 13 times I had bid on it before we got it. So,
oh, I'm so glad you said that.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I just love I didn't even think to bring that up, Rajesh, but I'm glad you did, because sometimes we say 5 or 6 times, but it's just persistence. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what? How much time did it take to go over there and put the address in and check it and bid again? Like that's 5 minutes,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
So,
Da 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 da, and we're gonna get it or not, right?
plus,
We're
it's
gonna get it
like
right.
sitting on the computer instead of driving miles, car, all those other stuff that goes out, at least that is not the point. And I mean, I'm excited because, I haven't seen the house and we have sold it, so that's what I like
Oh
the
yeah,
most about
oh
it.
yeah. Did I make you travel to the house?
No,
Did
nothing
you
at
go
all.
look and pick up a hammer? Did you
Mm-mm.
run around trying to hire anybody? All that?
No.
No,
No.
no. Now again, we're going to have a very detailed call about what did we do that maybe you weren't on that email, to make sure you know what those were, just to get around
Mm.
those and prevent, because we need you to have that independence, right, and not
Yes.
require us all the time. But
Mm.
that's why the first couple are really just watching and seeing what's going on. As you get immersed more in the next few deals, we'll get you to, hey, you call the guy and tell us what he says, because
Okay.
that's where independence comes from. But you just got to watch the first couple, because you don't know what to
Mm.
do. And it
Yes.
would just delay the process even more, right? So excited about that. We'll have you be engaged more on the Chipley deal. Then the Chipley deal, probably 30, 40, maybe more over there, depending on how that plays out, the
Yeah.
bigger check. But you can be
Mm-hmm.
involved more on that one as we're working
Sure,
through that
absolutely.
one, because you got to learn the back end, right? Got to learn the
Yes.
back end. So
And I like to be,
excited about
there,
that.
whatever I can do, if you just have to tell me and guide me, and,
I
I
know,
definitely
right?
like
And
to
we're
learn
excited to
and
do
grow
that.
from there.
Yeah, we're excited to do that, because, but what I love that you appreciate is there's only so much flow that can come over to absorb and do, because if it's too much, it's overwhelm and you go backwards, right? When we
Right.
try to make it just enough, but somebody can always pull on us more and say, oh, I'm ready for more, I can do more. Well, then great. We just don't want to overwhelm
Mm-hmm.
and make it a setback or confusion, because we never want to get in confusion, right? We're always clarity, because
Right.
we maintain confidence, we maintain the right actions, and then get the result we want. And as soon as we're in confusion, we got to get right back out of there. So, but you can tell us when it's a little too much, or if we haven't connected a dot. Let's make sure all dots are connected all the way, because that's what's going to make you not need anybody else. The goal is
Agree.
always we do it, we high five, we made a ton of money, and you don't need anybody else. We're always here for you when you need us, of course, but you don't
Absolutely.
need anybody else. Who wants program after program, because there's always something you don't know.
Agree. I agree.
Nobody wants that.
And after what I learned from you, I mean, in fact, from there onwards, I've just, obviously my plans, and last year I had planned, and obviously now we go further. Like next year, we want to do the pad split, where we can do that, so
Hmm.
we can have some
Yep.
ongoing income. Because
Yep.
if we have done 2 in last 2 years, we can at least do 5 next year or more than that if it's
Hmm.
possible. So we'll go from there. And I definitely like to do more work because that way I enjoy the most as well. First, I
Yes.
saw and observe from you guys
Yes.
and implement that, so.
Yeah. Well, I want to get you tied into the financing, right? Because you don't want you can't be dependent on us for the financing. We'll talk about that. Really excited about 2 lenders we're working with right now. One at
Okay.
95% loan to cost,
Okay.
and one is 100% loan to cost at a reasonable ARV, somewhere 100 to like 50% of ARV. Well, who gets those deals, right? That's just a fake loss leader, right? 100% of a real ARV. Most excitingly, there's no payment.
Okay.
So when you want a couple of deals at a time or 3, well, if you're not making a monthly payment, you can do a little more. You got to make sure they get done, of course, right? But the
Yes.
carry cost is always the constraint on scale is the carry cost. I mean, we manage that all the time. Like, oh my gosh, there's too many, or let's get fewer. Let's, it's just, you want to maximize cash, but then anything slow, so that's amazing. So, but getting you experience, guess what they're going to be happy with? You'll have 2 deals that
Agree.
basically you watched because we're leading the way,
Yes.
right? But they still count as your
Yes.
deals.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's 3, by the way. So I think we're one more after Chipley. You'll be able to borrow from those same guys that we do at pro level because you
Mm-hmm.
got 3 deals, even though it wasn't 3 deals on your own. Well,
Yes.
almost nobody can get 3 deals in places they don't live on their own without a
Agree.
bridge like us to help get there, right? So you're about
Yes.
to have the best lending on the planet because the experience with you to get there. People miss that. They think, oh, I can get on the website and it's 90%. Not for you because you haven't done a deal. They don't put
Agree.
that part on the website. Oh, you got no deals? Oh, we don't lend to you. Well, you're at
Agree.
80% of costs. Where's your 20% down? I don't have 20%. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't lend to you. They find out all
Mm-hmm.
that the hard way,
Agree.
and you don't have any of those problems,
Mm-hmm.
which would be great
And
because you'll have at least one under your
again,
belt.
it's risky. So this made me at least understood that okay, how to go about what to do, because we know what to do. I mean, how to get it, but it's sometimes going through all the bends of the road, that's where it is.
Hmm.
So,
Yes, exactly, exactly.
perfect. Yeah. So Chipley, I think we are getting the loan and everything is done, or we are working on that right now.
Yeah, so we got this one done, which is great, and we'll run the math and distribute the splits, right? Which is great. So that'll be awesome. Super happy with that. And so moving on from that is the loan is already done.
Okay.
They're just getting an insurance thing, which I think I fixed yesterday,
Okay.
but they've already been demoing since last week, demoing and getting in there. Nobody was slowing down to once the loan got committed, we can go in there and do all that kind of stuff. So that's all been working. They're just
Okay.
getting an insurance item to make sure that they're ready for that by the time the draw comes along, which
Mm-hmm.
I hope before Christmas, draw 1 can be ready to roll. And so
Okay.
we want to be on the market before February for that
Yes.
one because we want to be that spring market. So everything we have now is basically planned for the spring market because that's when they'll be hopefully the most exciting spring market we've had in a while
Yes.
because buyers are more. Let's talk about that for a second. One is there's some more. Let's just say there's more optimism in
Mm-hmm.
people keeping their jobs next year
Yes.
than before. We'll just call it
Mm-hmm.
that, okay? And people are farther away from the 5% interest rate, 4%. They've been 6.5 for a while now. 6.8, 6.4, 6.5. That's normal. People just
Mm-hmm.
realize that's normal. And
Mm-hmm.
so they're more apt to be buying next spring. And there's still less inventory in most states than before the pandemic. So not that we want less inventory because that keeps prices just going up a little higher than most people want. As sellers,
Mm-hmm.
we like that. As buyers, we don't like that, right? So
Right.
we'll hope it kind of evens out, but this should be a very good spring. So I think we're
Okay.
in very good shape to make up for that, and I think it'll be so much so that we'll make up for some time. We'll make up some of the lost time on that property because again, nothing's in that price range.
Yes.
Nothing in that price range, so it's a really
Yeah.
good price range, even for that area.
Yeah.
We're about median or below in there, so
Mm-hmm.
looking good. We're all super
And
excited
I know
about that.
Chippewa has a lot of work, but I think it has a good potential because I was looking in that area. The houses are selling in 260, 270 range or up to
Hmm.
300 as well. So
Yeah,
hopefully, that one will
and
be a
it's gonna
good.
look great.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
even if
it's
you
gonna look
spend
great. Remember,
100
it's
on
gonna be
it, it's still going to be a good
granite.
profit margin.
Yeah, granite, stainless, the whole thing. We've got some really good guys up to do it, so we're going to save on that. So fantastic,
Perfect.
fantastic. Well, that's what we had for you, Rajesh. So happy we could celebrate this today, and
Absolutely.
we can't wait to do many more to make sure that we're making some great money, and you know how to do it.
Dunkirk when we sold for 117.5, is that what we sold for?
Yeah, you'll get the HUD and the whole thing. It was about that. But and the reason I want to talk about that when we get that meeting is it's all the details, right? Well, the price, but what about the price after seller concession? So there's
Okay.
like, so I am usually I say net price all the time, right? Like what's the net price?
Okay, makes
Because
sense.
I don't like counting, because sometimes you give seller concession, sometimes you don't, right? So price doesn't mean anything. You say, oh, I sold it for 150 and gave 20,000 to the buyer. Well, okay, then what did you really sell? You know, you really sold it for 130, right? So the net after concession is a real sell price to me, because after that it's just title and commissions and like normal costs, right? The concessions to me are bumping, which is also why we talked about this. Sometimes Zillow will have a price, it doesn't say what the concession is.
Right.
So some of this ARV comping we talked about, just to get into training for a second, some of the comping, that's why it's nice to have that realtor check on comps about what real sales price is, because MLS will say the concession is, and therefore the sales price was 240, not 250. But Zillow will say 250, and so you could be off by 10,000 if we're going by just online. You could be off by 10,000. Making sure that realtor gets a little bit of wrinkle and having that conversation, be always concise, always respectful of their time, of course. But that's why I like that real affirmation. So on this property, there'll be a whatever sale price comp, but we'll know what we actually got. And if people just look online, they're going to see a different number than what we actually got. So still very good for our profit, of course, but that's the difference. That's my long answer to your questions. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, no question. And that's where all small things will add up, where we can have a proper deal and deal flow actually with that.
Yes. And mainly it helps you that when we ask next time to, hey, you go do this, Rajesh, and come back, you'll remember the issue and you'll know what questions to ask. That's part of the training. And then pretty soon you just go do it and it's perfect. And you're like, Corey, I don't need you. Perfect. Fantastic. Like if you're lamenting paying us on the last one, we did our job, right? Because then you're off to the races. You're like, why do I need these guys? That's perfect. Because then you reach the outcome you want.
Agree. I totally agree. But yeah, right now I'm going to be hanging on with you for a while because I want to
I
learn,
know.
understand,
I know you love us.
and
We love you
get my
too.
foundation right before even if I think of anything. But even though if I have to move from you, I always want your blessings on it, because without blessings it doesn't work for me. So whether together or not, we
100%.
want to be together into it. So
We love collaboration. We love sharing. We also love independence. My favorite, I'll let you go with this. My favorite phrase is always, we're here for you later after we get through a bunch of these right course, but we only want you to come back if you want to, not because you have to. That's the distinction we want, right? If you want to, we want to also, that's awesome. We just never want you to feel like you have to,
agree.
because we feel like a lot of people create dependence if they're members and not independence. And we just think that's really, really important to keep a great relationship, because we just like to. That's where we are too. That's where we are too. So
Absolutely.
Sweet.
And for me, for us, my dad always says, if somebody's opened a door, never forget it. Because you see, the day you
100%.
forget, you have to go back and open another door. So, I always, once you open the door, I always want to remember that. And I share with my children also, it's always that first door, and keep that door open and remember that, because otherwise you have to do one more time again, same thing.
That's right. And Uncle Corey can come visit. See,
Yeah.
I can come over the holiday.
And
No,
thank you so much. Yeah, this is going to be great. We'll have a good Christmas conversation. Also, I'm going to share with the kids as well on this one.
absolutely. Well,
That's
we
great.
love you, Rajesh. We appreciate you. Anything
Thank you.
Jacqueline or Maggie want to add?
Just excited for you, and just excited for you, and it is great, coming into holiday season with the big check, with the big win, share with your family. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You guys been always supportive. I appreciate that too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we'll be talking again this week anyway, before Christmas. But Merry Christmas anyway,
Same.
Rajesh. But we'll be talking about the other one as we move through that one now. Another get that check on the way. But thank you so much for today, and enjoy the rest of your day and week.
Happy
and we'll talk real
holidays,
soon.
Be safe, and Merry Christmas in advance to you guys as well.
Merry Christmas.
Same.
Thank you.
Okay. Talk
Thank you.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.